Hello. I'll try and give you some info. Right, first thing is the size. That's an E-Class Merc. Its nose is sticking out. That's the Land Rover Discovery 4, which is pretty much in line. That's the back. You can kind of almost see the importance of me going on about the guttering, because that extra sort of 12 centimetres up there, it does help a little bit. So ignoring the fact we've actually got, it's unfinished because we had COVID before Christmas and the weather's been rubbish, so I've not been able just to come out, put the final treatment on, take off the stringy bits there, trim the edge, and then block this in, which we talk about every few days, and I still keep losing the battle. What am I talking about? Right, 6-inch. So the 6-inch posts. This is almost aesthetic, I suppose, but obviously gives it some strength as well. There's nothing special about these, the way they're cut in here, and there's some bolts pinning them through. It's a very simple construction, and I kind of like that. Put some more stain on it. This is, you remember creosote from the old days? This is creosote, well, clear coat or creosolve. It's another product which is like the legal version of it. It doesn't burn you when you put this stuff on. So, you know, these are obviously just posts, but I like this rough kind of finish on it. This is 6x2s, which is the same as the ring beam that I was trying to describe that goes around the top. Actually, putting these corner pieces in was an afterthought. They weren't going to be up there, these ones. These were, hence why we cut them in, just to look a little bit pretty. I never wanted this to be like a showpiece. That's why I like using this sort of very rough finish. I wanted it to look old straight away. You know, I didn't, although it's clearly not. What other little tricks? Right, okay, you know, when I had all the trusses made, which I think was a brilliant idea, it worked out really well because of that weight calculation you were talking about. You can see I actually used some bed liner, this black spray paint, and it was literally sprayed on it. On the camera it looks really dark. For my eyes it doesn't look like what you're seeing there. That's really weird. What about from here? Yeah, it looks really dark. All of this looks really dark to me, or this would. I suppose that's the benefit of the stuff that I've put on here. You can just keep putting it on to change the colour of it. It will make it darker. But I wanted it rustic, you know, right from the start. If it's that kind of immaculate finish, well, then you have to maintain it to keep it immaculate. I put a little ring beam around the bottom of it as well, just to contain the gravel. Right, little tricks that no one probably knows about is, right, so it's quite hard here. We kind of live in a quarry, look. See, lots of rock. So the ground's really hard. So under here, let's just talk about this, right? This is a hole. You just dig a hole. So underneath here, like a lot of this, when you start digging down, you hit a stone and you'll pull it out and it'll leave a hole. But I'm in a massive hole. We've got a huge amount of big stones here. So start plucking stones out of here, and this very quickly ended up like this big. And rather than nice sort of clean edges like this, where we can put some concrete in, it's basically a big, horrible pad, like cooking gone wrong. And it went down probably about 10-12 inches. So this concrete pad is kind of like that big, but it's not a pretty thing underneath there. It's just there for mass. Right. Dig a hole, fill it with concrete, it goes off, it goes hard, so you've now got a flat surface there. Do the same, all 6 posts, they're roughly the same. And then there's a plate of metal. So I mean, I've got a galvanised square piece of metal like that, and it's bolted to that concrete base. Welded to that square piece of metal is a thread. Give me a bit of thread. This unit has been sat here for months. Oh, all right, okay, that's all I want. Right, that square piece of metal under there has a thread welded to it. That thread runs up inside here. I'm hesitating. Yeah, where my thumb is here, there is a nut. Sorry, there's a nut on the bolt there, and then there's another plate, and then another nut. So this is up inside the wood. but the actual wood itself is sat on that plate, which is being held in place by a nut, the plate there, another nut. In other words, it's adjustable. So I can move, in theory, I could jack this leg up here, could lift it up, and it would slide up on this pin that's there. I could then change the two nuts that are there. And in theory, I could hire this. Now that's true for each of these, and that's because in the UK, just because there's this thing about a concept about permissive development. I'm freezing, by the way, this is why I'm shaking. It's cold out here. I could, because I'm really close here in terms of my height, because the Land Rover is quite high, and I wanted to make sure I've got enough space there. If I stick a roof rack on it, which I do, or even a roof box, it's still going to clear the top. So it is a little tiny bit, maybe like 1 or 2 centimeters in the naughty sort of arena. So my thinking was, I've got 2 options here, is I could either lower the whole thing down, so I could, I don't know, strap something to this, lift it up, and remember I'm lifting up the whole kind of corner here, lift it up just enough to sort of take tension off the nuts underneath, undo it, drop it back down again, and I could do that 6 times. So I could lower it if I really had a pedantic inspector person. Option B, this piece of wood here, I can lift it up. Well, then what I would do is this gravel layer, I would lift it up here, I'd top up this with more gravel, and I'd lift the whole floor up. Now you can measure it from there to there. But I mean, it's fractions. I think it might be like 1.5 centimeters too high, something like that. So, you know, if someone wants to be really pissy about it, then fine, I'll lower the whole thing down, or lift the land up by, say, lifting up these lower rings here, lift them up, put more gravel in, put more gravel in the edge. No, I'll lift the whole ground up, as in I'll lift the whole ground up. Yeah. Fine. Oh, it's a cold wind coming down here past the house. Cool. Yeah, it's just about not being a dick, really, isn't it? So all the trusses here are one aspect of it, and they are sitting on essentially the ring going around the top. Now the ring, if I show up there, look, the ring, that ring beam going across is sat in that post. The ring is sat in the post. So all the weight of that C24 there is on that post. Oh my God, it's cold. This was a little bit of a trick, to be honest. As you can see, so I can run some wires. There's some lights and stuff I've put under here, which I'm not happy with yet. That'll evolve, and I've not finished the guttering because thanks COVID. But it also, not only does it brace this, it braces this other unit that I've got hiding my oil tank behind there. Here's a good tip, and I hope this one's true as well. As long as you've got an open side, you can put wood next to it. Anyway, we won't go on too much about that. Same sort of thing, really. If they get a bit angsty about that, I'll move the oil tank. If they don't like it, I'll just lift it, put it over there. So, it's the same sort of theory that I kind of employ, but everything, you know, don't be a dick about it, and most of the time people are fine. So, yeah, there's not really much to talk about here. So, footing, metal thing underneath there with adjustable nuts on it, up through a hole here. What am I saying? Right, yeah, legs, the ring beam sat on top, just a few supporting edges, and what else? That's it. The truss is on top, and then the roof, well, that's another matter. I mean, the actual, it's a slate roof on here, it's synthetic slate. It's actually to match the house. And the angle we employed here is very, very similar. It's not actually the same as that. That's not the same as that, but it's good enough. So it's just aesthetic. It's just from the front. If anyone looks at it, they just see roofy, and then roofy. That's it. It's I wanted it simple. I didn't want it. It still needs finishing that. So when it warms up a bit, we get this lovely weather come back, because it's just too cold. It's too cold, Poppy. Hey. I'm going in. as you can see, the back of the car overhangs, but you'd have to make this considerably bigger. You'd probably, you know, to protect the back, you could reverse it in and then have it nose sticking out, I don't know, but to completely bring this underneath, you'd have to go another metre out. So it's two 4x4 squares, so it's 8 metres by 4 metres, and then the extra overhang, which is what, another 50. So it's probably total width about 5 metres, where you'd have to go to 6, and then so you start throwing into question the strength of that ring beam up there. You might have to go up to 8x2s or 10x2s, something like that. And unfortunately, we built it last year in 2022 when the price of timber was just ridiculous. You know, we converted this bit here, probably you might have seen in one of the video, this was a garage here, and we converted that into an office, and it just seemed sensible just to throw something up here where we can put the cars underneath. We're not precious about the cars, as you can see, it's just a car. But I think it does, it works here. It just sort of defines an area to stick your car rather than just leave it lying around. And if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see that we've kind of got a lot of shaping going on here in the yard, in the grubby muddy bit. I am freezing. Right, hopefully that explains some of it, I hope. Right, what do we say? Later, taters.